Hi, good evening everybody. I think we're live now. Hope you're all well on this Friday the 13th and everything has gone to plan for you today. So thank you for joining me this evening. If you're watching this on replay, hello at whatever time you're watching it. But thank you for joining us this evening to answer some or listen to the answers to some of the questions that you guys out there have been asking us. So we're going to make this a regular occurrence, whether it's myself, my colleague James or my colleague Laura. We're going to be answering your property related questions and doing live broadcasts reasonably regularly. So watch out for those and watch out for our videos that we'll be pushing out on some of the questions that we've been asked. But today, this is our first one, Friday the 13th. We've got five questions to answer today for people that have sent in questions. So I've tried to mix them up a little bit. We've got, I say, five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one on renting, a couple on buying and a couple on selling/buying. So if your question isn't in here, then all you've got to do is send us a message and we'll get it on the next one. So we'll try and do another one next Thursday or Friday. We'll put another post out there asking for questions, so don't forget. So number one, first one that we're going to go for is a lettings question, because there's been lots of lettings properties come on the market over the past week or so. So the question is, why can't I pay a holding deposit for a house that I've seen online? So there's a few reasons really. The lettings market is ridiculous at the moment. So for every property, we're probably getting 10 to 20 people that want to view it. Now we will only take one holding deposit at any point in time. So if we take your holding deposit as an example, and what about the other 10 people that want to view it, that may be in slightly different positions, and so on and so on. So first of all, there's lots of people out there wanting to rent properties. So my advice to you is, make sure you're friends with a letting agent. They fully understand your requirement and they know what you're looking for. The other reason is, if you decide that you want to pay a holding deposit without seeing it, what about if you don't like the property? So you're essentially committing yourself through referencing and signing a contract to a 12-month or more agreement that is going to be, I don't know, let's just for argument's sake say £700 a month. That's going to cost you £8,400, that contract, and if you didn't really want it and you just did it on a whim, then that's not necessarily a great thing to do. So we'd always recommend somebody view a property before they apply for it and before they spend their money. And yeah, what about if you don't like the house or the area? So that's the reason why we won't take holding deposits on a property if you haven't viewed it. So the next two questions that we've got are very similar, and they're from buyers and mortgages. Now I'm guessing one of these is a first time buyer. So the question is, I've checked online, so my questions are down here on my laptop by the way. So I've checked online and I can afford the repayments on a mortgage of around 190,000. How do I buy a property with that mortgage? Okay, so checking online on one of the mortgage calculators, whether it's on your bank or whatever, doesn't mean that you're going to get a mortgage. That's just giving you a rough idea of how much you may be able to borrow. Just to give you an example, somebody that I know went to get a mortgage. They did the calculator online, then when they actually spoke to somebody, this was with Nationwide, they could literally borrow about 2/3 of what they thought they could borrow. So my advice would be, is yes, you can go online and you can check on all the affordability calculators and what the repayments are going to be on a certain type of mortgage, but you have to go and see, you don't have to, but you need to go and see or speak to a mortgage advisor, ideally an independent one. So if you bank with Nationwide can only tell you about Nationwide products, whereas a mortgage advisor, an independent one, depends what panels they're part of, can tell you about lots of different mortgages that are available. So first thing you need to do is go and see a mortgage advisor, give them all your bank statements and wage slips and so on, and then they'll tell you what you can afford. That's what the banks will lend to you, so start there. Secondly, then you need to go and view the properties and make sure that you can get what you want within your affordability. So in terms of how you would buy that property, then let's say you go and see number 1 High Street, you like it, you can afford it, you make an offer, and then you would submit the mortgage application. And there's sort of 3 stages to the mortgage. Number 1 is you go and see a mortgage provider or an independent advisor. They'll tell you how much you can afford and perhaps give you an agreement in principle. That's just some very soft, this is what we think you can borrow. Next stage is you either find a property or you go to the next stage where you provide them with your wage slips and all the information that I've mentioned, your outgoings and so on. They'll give you a decision in principle. And then the third one is you find a property, one high street, you say I want to buy one high street for that amount of money, I need that amount of mortgage, apply and pay your survey fee or your application fee, and then that's how you apply for any specific mortgage. I hope that's clear enough. If you need any more info, then please feel free to get in touch with us again, and I'm happy to go through that with you. So the next question is very similar in terms of mortgages and so on. So my mortgage advisor has said I can buy a house for up to £210,000. We've seen some houses online that are offers over or offers in excess of. What does that mean? Okay, so first thing to say is that a house is worth what someone's prepared to pay. So whether it's on the market for 100,000 and you buy it for 120, you buy it for 80, it's worth what someone's prepared to pay. The purpose of offers in excess of is typically what used to happen sort of many years ago, and some of the generation of sort of 30 plus, I guess, that will remember if they've bought a house, is when you go and see a property, the property price would be, let's say for argument's sake, £250,000. Everybody knows that it's worth 240, but somebody wanted to put it on for 250. So you put it on for 250,000, somebody would come through the door, they'd make you an offer of 240, that's what you're expecting. The buyer's happy because they got £10,000 off, the seller's happy because they got what they're expected, everyone's a winner. What's happened with the market being so busy is people are now pricing at offers in excess of. So on the same property that's worth 240, you may say offers in excess of 235 or offers in excess of 240. The aim being to get a number of people through the door because it might be a price point on a portal. So for example, 235 isn't a price point on a portal. You either search up to 230 or 240. So it's to show people that that property is within a band where it shouldn't be perhaps. So 230 might be a bit low, but if you went offers over 235, you get somebody through the door and you can probably expect to pay £5,000 or more above the asking price if it's worth it. Now, so the offers over is normally a bottom line of what the vendor perhaps is looking to achieve, but every vendor and every agent work it differently. Now, just a word or a tip, that just because a property is on the market for that price, it doesn't mean to say you have to offer that price or more. There is a legal obligation from, by law, legal, that estate agents have to submit any offer. So if you make me an offer, let's say this property is on the market for £250,000, let's say you make me an offer of 150, quite clearly that's not going to be accepted, but we have a legal obligation to put that forward unless the vendor has specifically written to us or confirmed in writing that we can refuse any offer below a certain amount. So offers over or offers in excess of, same thing, ideally to get you to pay more than the asking price, and to generate the interest and get the people through the door from a buyer's point of view. But ultimately it's worth what someone's prepared to pay, and you need to offer exactly what you think it's worth. How long does it take to buy a house? So that's how long's a piece of string. It depends if you're cash, your mortgage, what if there's a big chain. So let's say I'm a first time buyer, I'm going to go and buy this house at One High Street again. Then if One High Street have then got to find somewhere, Two High Street, and then Two High Street have got to find somewhere, and they've got to find somewhere, and they've got to find somewhere. Roughly for each transaction, it is around 12 to 15 weeks-ish. So if you make an offer today and it's accepted today and you start the process today, 12 weeks-ish from then. If the next person doesn't find for 2 weeks, then it's 12 to 15 weeks plus 2 weeks. If they then don't find for 2 weeks, so it can start to add on. Now hopefully as we start to get up the chain, people get more organised, solicitors are all sorted, so actually the transaction times come down a bit. But there are a number of things that rely on the chain. Mortgages, solicitors, searches from the council, and so on and so on. So it's a bit of an open-ended question, but generally if somebody asked me today, it's somewhere between 12 to 15 weeks. So 3 to 4 months-ish. And the last question that we've got is, we would be first-time sellers, we're thinking of downsizing to save cost. How much would it cost to buy and sell? Now, I have messaged these people back because it depends how much they're selling for and how much they're buying for. So They haven't responded, so I'm just going to make up a couple of costs for you. So let's assume that they are selling a house at £350,000 and they're buying a house at £250,000. So the costs that you need to consider when buying and selling are stamp duty on your purchase. So if you're a first time buyer, by the way, there's still no stamp duty up to, I think it's 425,000. So there's no stamp duty if you're a first time buyer, but if any other buyer, then there's a stamp duty. So stamp duty, which is, it's unusual to work out now, but at 250,000, it's 2,500. You've got solicitor to buy and sell, estate agents fees and removals. So let's say in Tamworth, the average fee to sell a property is between 1 and 1.5%. Let's just go for £4,000 plus VAT. So it's £5,000 for estate agents. Okay. You've got stamp duty at 2,500. So that's 7,500. You've got solicitors to buy and sell. Let's say 1,000 each. I've even lost all my numbers now. So 7,500, 9,500. And then you've also got your removal fees, disbursements from solicitors and so on and so on. So roughly, finger in the air, for everything, it's around £10,000-ish, give or take. That's just a good figure to have. If it's less, brilliant, but obviously you need to budget if it's a little bit more. Now, if you haven't sold before, the majority of the fees are going to be paid out of the completion monies. So let's say you sell for £350,000. Your total selling fees that you're going to pay all these at the end are 10,000. So actually you've sold for 340. Let's say your mortgage is 40. So you back down to 300 and you buy for 250. So actually you move from 350 to 250, pay off your mortgage, and you've got £50,000 spare if you're lucky enough to have that. So just when you do sell, all your fees, or the majority of your fees, apart from some solicitor fees and search fees and mortgage application fees and so on, are paid on completion of the sale out of the proceeds of your sale. So they're the 5 questions that I've narrowed down that cover most of what people have asked us, just because I'm conscious I don't want to take up too much of your time this evening. But if you've got any other questions that you'd like answering, or some clarification on the ones that have been asked that I've tried to answer, then all you've got to do is get in touch, Anton at next-place.co.uk. You can Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever through any number of channels. So today we're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn and a couple of others. So the questions that may have come in during this broadcast, thank you for watching. I will try and answer all of them and respond to them, but please put your contact details down there if they're not obvious. Thank you for watching. Nice to see you all, and I'll see you again, or my colleague James or Laura will, on the next live. Take care, have a great weekend.